Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Today, back into the big one, Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. This is our Let's Play against the Devilish Mr. Lodric, and it is now the setup phase for February 21st. 1942, and so we keep motoring along here. Now we've had some real excitement lately with the disaster at Bombed Bay. That's we've talked about quite a bit. Just spoiler alert, he is sailing back out by Colombo now, so Bombay is hopefully in the clear. So because of that, I think I'm going to go do the U.S. East Coast and talk about that. And I thought over these next few setup phases, we'll actually, get into the setup. I know some people uh, don't want that level of deep detail. Other people do want that level of detail. So I'm going to try to accommodate both. And at least once a month, near the end of the month, I'm going to go around and really just really set it up so that you see what I'm doing, what I'm sending where, and maybe it'll give you a little more context for when the combat resolutions come along. You say, oh gosh, we just sent that task force, X, Y, or Z, and you can be nervous like I am when it happens. But as usual, with the setup review day, let's go look at the stats. And you can see here, last turn, in the 19th and 20th combat resolutions, we ran 5760 on the sorties, the Japanese 7901. For the campaign, we're at about 190,000. He's at about, so we're, just short of 200,000. He's at about 300,000. He's, 3-2 on the sorties. Air-to-air losses, we took 50 this time. He took 27. Now, we took a lot of uh, losses down in the Dutch East Indies. You're going to lose those planes anyway. Sometimes I try to, just stagger when I send him out there for almost certain death and hope that I catch him just on a bombing run. His own bombing run, and we just so happen to catch something that's unescorted or whatever. We actually held up really well over Rangoon, for instance, so I was not upset with how the air went this time. But the number's big, 50 to 27 destroyed on the field, 0-0. He had 5 destroyed by flak and also took 15 operational losses. We took 8. Now this is just what we know about. We've got fog of war, right? So he took 47 losses this time. We took 58. I think we'll take that because mainly we want to be killing his pilots. As macabre as that may sound, the Japanese's main problem is after you get through their initial group of really good pilots, they don't have a deep bench. And so the more of his pilots you can kill, the better off you are. 511 political points. You can see it's about we're not quite 2-1 on the score. 14,638 to 75,10. That's going to continue changing, right? He's still got some big places to get, like Batavia, potentially Rangoon, Port Moresby. He's going to load up points there, and so we just can't allow it to get to 4-1. Allied bases controlled 484 to 353. Okay. Airpoint gosh darn it, aircraft points lost 954 to 588. Obviously, we've lost a lot of army points in China, Philippines, also now in the Dutch East Indies. Allied ships sunk 381, and let's see what was sunk this last turn. We lost these 4 Dutch, they were all Dutch destroyers out and near Colombo as his carrier force came back or is still coming back in and around Colombo. We lost these 4 destroyers that were out there doing ASW work for us. It's 20 total points. It's these Dutch ships we got out of the Dutch East Indies. Okay, okay. I mean, I would rather have not have lost them. It's also not a big deal, really. Uh, let's go to. You know what? Let's go look at our top pilots. Have we ever gotten an ace? We did. Yes. CAC Sloan. I'm sure that's Charles, Arthur, Charlie, Stone. Look at this guy. He's got 84 experience. He's got some fatigue now. He's only been on 12 missions, but he's got 6 kills, and he must be down at Rangoon. And I think that 17th Squadron of the RAF is at Rangoon, and he's flying a Hurricane 2B Trop, which is the best plane we got on the damn map. And you can see, This whole top kill list here is littered with Hurricane 2B traps because they actually give us a real even chance when it comes to the Japanese Zeros and Oscars. So anyway, he now has 6 kills. We finally have an ace, and we've got a few guys with 4. Well, unfortunately, Charlie Richard Bond here was killed in action. He was with the Flying Tigers. Okay, so we do have an ace, finally. Aircraft losses, we could go look at this. Sure, why not? Total. We've lost a lot of Warhawks. A lot of Zeros have been lost. These are the Flying Tigers. We've lost a lot of Buffalo Ones. He's lost a lot of Oscars. These are those Dutch fighters, the 139 WHs. B339s, I think, are actually their bombers, right? Kate's, Nels, these are all his, of course. And so those are the aircraft that have been lost. Mainly, the Warhawks, the Zeros, the Flying Tigers, you can see are right up here and kind of their and the Buffaloes are kind of in a category of their own for losses, quite a few of them there. Group reinforcement schedule. What new planes are we getting in soon? We're going to get these Dragons in at Darwin. Those are transport planes. We could use those to get out to the Horn Island if we need to get transport out there or other places. They always can come in useful, especially later on. Early on, you're not flying as much freight unless it's from Burma into China. But later on, when you're trying to get out to little small islands and stuff, these can come in very handy. Hurricane 1 drops, we get 16 more of those at Aden. That's fantastic. The Blenheims that we use for both naval search and ground bombing come in at Aden. Then we get a bunch of training aircraft, really, for carriers. We get Buffaloes, Wildcats, Dauntlesses. Okay, that's all great. We get some new Wildcats out at Pearl Harbor as another training group for carriers comes in. This is excellent. The more pilots we can get carrier trained, the better. Wildcats, Buffaloes, Vindicators. So we've got Dauntlesses at San Diego's, Vindicators out at Pearl Harbor, although some of these are going into Midway Island, strangely enough, right? The Buffaloes and the Vindicators, that's great. So if he comes around he comes around town trying to mess with us at Midway Island, we've got a really nice air complement there. Looks like we get some at Townsville here. Kitty Hawks. Now, these are the Australian fighters that you get, and you get them at almost every major Australian town. At one time or another, you get these squadrons of 16 Kitty Hawks. They come with terrible pilots, just as a warning. In 13 days, more Hurricane 1 drops into Aden, and then you see the Hornet finally arrives on the U.S. East Coast over here. So that's our reinforcements that are coming in. We looked at the ship sunk last time, ship availability. It's always fun. Let's get this sorted correctly. There we go. Cargo, tanker, destroyer. We get a new destroyer at Aden, British destroyer. That's going to be an 8 on the anti-sub, which is always much welcome. We'll try not to get this one killed. More cargo, AMC, some of this, like the AMC, I just hide for now. We get a lot of subs in at San Diego. We talked about these a few episodes ago. They don't have much range. But they don't carry the Mark 14 torpedo. They carry the Mark 10, so they're actually deadly. And we'll try to island hop them out near Australia. Balboa, we get these destroyers. These go with the Hornet. And so when the Hornet comes in on the U.S. East Coast, we'll sail it down to the Panama Canal, and then we've got these destroyers that'll be sitting there at the Panama Canal just waiting for it. We get more destroyers at Cape Town, so on and so forth. A lot of tankers come in at Abaddon soon. That's always much welcome. Yeah. We also get a British carrier in 22 days at Cape Town. So we get the Formidable. That's fun. That's fun. And you see Mombasa and Aden, we get more destroyers. Eventually, I'll batch all those up and probably have them come over here and be with the Formidable. It's formidable. I love how the British name their carriers. They all sound very, very scary. The indomitable, the formidable, so on and so forth. Ship withdrawal. Let's just make sure we don't have anything in the near future. Let's get up here. 224, the Dickman. Uh, Uh, well, we'll talk about that one later. The Queen Elizabeth needs to come off by April. The Aquitania, you have these CLs, the Emerald and the Dragon are two British ones. They're currently at Bombay getting repaired, but we could actually just withdraw them. Maybe that's what I should do. Um, Submarines, so on and so forth. We'll come back and look at that as it becomes more relevant. Ship availability, we looked at that. Group reinforcement schedule for on the ground. Days till arrival, we get a construction regiment in Chongqing. We get infantry division, a brand new American infantry division in at Seattle. Unfortunately, that is totally locked to the U.S. West Coast. Boo. We don't like that. We get some new AA in at Ceylon here soon. Colombo, we get the Ceylon Command comes into Colombo. Okay, so we get a new headquarters there. First Marine Defense Battalion comes in at Pearl Harbor. We'll want to get this out to an island somewhere. Something more for First Australian that comes into Aden. We get some koi units, these little koi units. They usually only have an assault strength of like, 10 or so, but we'll get those out to the islands in the South Pacific. All right, let's go look around. Just very big overview. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. We're always on this side of the map, but it's mainly where things have been happening here. And if we look out here, if I hover over, you can see four battleships that we know about. We cited 10 ships, four battleships, two light carriers, a carrier escort, and I assume he's got his other. We know he's got three or four carriers out here otherwise. He's also got destroyers and battleships here. Now, those probably don't have as big of endurance, so he's skedaddling those back to Singapore, which is where, down here at Singapore, which is where I think he's got them based. Um, when it comes to this, what I'll call the Indian Ocean carrier group, because he's got two big ones. One is over by Port Moresby, which I'll call the Pacific one. The Indian Ocean one, I believe, is based at Singapore. That's where he seems to be coming in and out of now that he's got Singapore, and so he's getting back down here because I think he needs fuel. Uh, while we lost a lot of stuff at Bombay, he also lost a lot of fighters and whatnot. So anyway, this is coming down here. That's kind of the big thing here. I'm trying to get as much supply into Rangoon as I can before he gets over here. You can see he's massing here at Raheng, and he'll be over here in the near future. He's got Chiang Mai, he's got a force here, but this is deep dark red, right? And so he's heading this way, and it's going to be on. Now he does have some ships here. We see 8 ships that are out here harassing our shipping into Rangoon. And these guys, this turn, I can tell you, I do turn around and send them to Madras uh, or Calcutta. I mean, we've got carriers over here, so sending them over this direction may be bad mojo if he did happen to just loop around here for a moment. So we may send those back to Calcutta, right? Um, but we've got to get freight in here. We've got 85.59 on supply. Now you do have a lot of fuel and they do have industry here, so they can create their own supply to an extent, but it's not going to be enough to hold this much army over for not even a month's time, I would imagine. So that's going on out here. If we go down a little bit here into the Dutch East Indies, uh, he's landed in Samarang. You can see he's bringing a lot more task forces here. We've got subs everywhere I can place them, where I think he may be coming through, trying to get a nice strike. So I've just got them sitting in a quote unquote patrol zone in one hex, just sitting here. I've got one sitting right in front of Semarang. You can see all of these Dutch subs just laying in wait. But he's landed here. Where's he going to go first? Is he going to go to Surabaya or straight up to Batavia? We'll see. But he's got the center base in the island now as a jumping off point. We've got our subs in waiting. We'll see if we hit anything. He's still trying to attack Ambon, but it has not gone well, certainly, for him there. Trying to get some freight into Darwin. Looks like we may succeed this time, which is a decent amount of supply. We've just, you can see it's in red. We've got to get supply into Darwin because we've got a pretty decent force here but they're not supplied, and they're not going to do any good if they're not supplied. And the last thing we want is for him to land here at Darwin, get his 110 points, and have a staging base out of Australia. We've just got to stop that if we can. Now, a lot of times Japanese players will land over here, Broome and Derby. Okay, we'll see. I've got things coming out. You can also see the ABD command ended up down here in Darwin. I'm going to have put that on move and get it over here to the East Coast, probably to Townsville, because we do have some ABDA units over there. Out here by Perth, we have spotted some submarines. We've had some trouble with submarines from time to time. I'm trying to escort everything in and out I can. Now, these guys need to go back and get a little fuel, but two destroyers there that will go out and meet task forces. Oh, this is our big surface fleet down here in Australia. I've got them kind of hiding down here, but one of these times I'm going to go up and try to surprise him north of Australia. I haven't had a good opportunity, but he's been sailing, kind of some what I would call not very strong task forces out here and harassing our shipping into Darwin. Some light cruisers. Now, he has taken out some of our cargo ships that way, but one of these times, I'm going to follow one of the cargo groups up north, and I'm going to try to spring a trap on him. That often works quite well. This is going back to Cape Town. That's going back to Cape Town. That's going back to Cape Town. We don't have anything coming onto the map this turn, right? Yeah, those are all going back. So that's why I'm sending my destroyers back to Albany or Esperance to kind of refuel, get ready. We've got a lot that's going to be coming out of Esperance that we'll need to escort out as it goes out this way. Um, Down here, not a whole lot to talk about. If we get up here to Port Moresby, you can see I've got American subs just all over the place, but they haven't had a whole lot of success. I believe, yeah, this is his carrier task force. You can see he's just got a gob of stuff in here. 188 bombers, 73 fighters. We're harassing these. Now, of course, we ran into the destroyers here, but I'm trying to get after these carriers, any other ships he's got down here. You can see every entry and exit way out of this area I'm trying to cover with subs, but we just haven't had much success. Not like you will against the AI. You can see he has now dropped off and moved a force here into Port Moresby. What is the problem? We've got zero supply. Through the bombardment and through us just not having enough supply up there in the first place, we now have no supply here. So he will eventually take Moresby. Is it this turn? I don't know. Hopefully, we can hold on for 5 or 6 turns because this isn't even bright red. It says he's got 10,000 troops here. If we look at what we've got between infantry and second line troops, we've got like 7,500 troops here, right? 189 assault strength. It's not what I usually like to get out to Moresby. For either men or supply, you should do much better than this in your game. We've got brigades sitting at Townsville that should be out here. We've got supply ships that didn't get up here that got destroyed. He scared me off with his carriers because he got down here so quickly, and it's now caused us not to be able to hold on to Moresby, and I'm mad about myself. Mad about myself? Yeah, mad at myself, I mean, about it. So that's not good. Um, We've got, various things coming out to islands. I am now trying to populate Luganville. Again, was laid out here because he's had his carriers down here. Now it looks like his carriers are up here, and he's going to support the invasion of Moresby or the assault on Moresby. So I'm getting all of these ships out here that I can. He's going back to Sydney, but I'm getting things up to Nomaya. So this transport is dropping off the 114th Base Force. We've got at Afate, this transport is dropping off the Catherine Base Force that I got up here. This transport is dropping off the Rockhampton Base Force. So I'm getting my base forces out here, and I'm going to get koi units out here. We've got to get these islands populated while his carriers are distracted. Usually you want to do that first thing in the game, but again, we got scared off a little bit. We got a lot of things coming into Auckland. You can see I've just got kind of a dance line that goes now from LA to Auckland. Get them into Auckland, and then you could take them up to supply these islands. I use Auckland as my main base to do that. I've got another transport going to Nomaya. It's got the 2nd Marine Regiment on it, so it's headed up here while I think his carriers are distracted. You can see he's got submarine activity out here by Suva. We have some transport. Look at everything I've got on Suva now. What have we got? An assault strength of 243. It looks like it would be more than that, but it's not. We've got fighters and bombers out here at Suva. But I've also got these 2 transports that are dropping off. Well, that's done. And so that's going to move out of here. We got the 2nd U.S. Marine Corps tank that just got on here. Everything out here on these islands should be 1st U.S. amphibious if they're Marines, right? U.S. Marine Corps. If they're Army, I can't remember. It's either 10th or 13th Army that I have out here. Well, we can see. I'm also resupplying and building up Pago Pago. This has already dropped off. Let's just see. What do we have out here? This is Pacific Fleet, Samoan Marine Battalion. Oh, you start with this. 8th Marine Regiment, still in Pacific Fleet. Eventually, you want to get these in one amphib if you can. We've got a Marine battalion out here. We've got artillery out here. We've got AA out here. When you're setting up these main islands like Pago Pago, this is pretty good for what I'd like. 2 base forces with a lot of aviation support. So this is the 1st Marine Air Wing. This is like an extra base force you get that's really focused on aviation support. So it's got an aviation support of 90. You'll want one of these on Pago. I think we get 2 or 3 others. Suva, Nomaya. Hell, if you can start expanding out, Luganville, Afate, we're also dropping planes off out here. We just dropped these off. We have Warhawks out here and we have Catalinas. I think I just brought these Catalinas out here potentially. But if we look at Suva, what do we have over here? We've got the 115th Air Force Base Force. We've also got this is Port Services. We've got that out here. We've got 2 U.S. Fighter Command. We've got 1 amphib sitting here as our command, overall command and the air overall command. So we've really got a nice stack up here. 115th, what's this? 114th. Okay, well, this is only part of 114th because the rest of it made it over here to Nomaya, I believe. That's what I'm dropping off. So that just kind of got left behind. There we go. Finally. Okay. Yeah, that is the 114th. So one little part of it stayed on Suva. Oh well. We'll want to get another one of those Marine Air Wings up here for more aviation support and another one here. Now we're expanding to Luganville and Afate. You want to do that. And we also, I'm using the fact that I know exactly where his carriers are to get over here to Canton, right? And I'm dropping things off at Canton. He's just giving us this. He hasn't come to take it. A lot of times, Japanese players will take this immediately. He has not done that. So I moved the U.S. Marine Corps Parachute Battalion out here. We've got the 101st U.S. Navy Base Force out here, and we've got the Canton engineers. They were already here, but it's a 25 aviation sport. So I put some Catalinas out here, and now, I mean, we're getting into Japanese territory with some recon. So I really like that. I'm going to build up Canton. Now, it's kind of hard to keep it if he really wants it, but he's shown no indication of going after it. Again, I'm building up Penryn a little bit just because it kind of goes down. Here's Pago. We go Nomaya, Suva, Pago to Penryn, and then Penryn to Christmas. And so this is our iron crescent, as I call it, and we can just sail things right behind this iron fence that we're building and get it around to Australia or other places where we want it to go. This was something that dropped off aircraft. You can tell that that's air transport. So that's headed back. I've actually got it going to Tahiti. It could probably go up to Pearl Harbor. We've got this huge group. Now, mainly it's carrying supply to Auckland you can see here, but I also put a transport in here. I called it air transport, but it's only this one group of, I believe these are Catalinas. Yep, more Catalinas down here. Eventually, I'll fly those up to, so they're going to go into Auckland, but then I'll skip them up to Luganville, and then we can get a real sense of what he's got going on up here with Catalinas that have a long, long range. Christmas Island, Palmyra, we talked about those. I've got more shipping that's going again behind the Iron Crescent, as I call it. We've got things coming, coming out, going there. See if we have any transports. This is just supply to Palmyra out of Cristobal. I have them come straight out of Cristobal. Look at this huge tanker task force with all kinds of fuel going to Auckland. It probably will go all the way to Australia because we have a real deficit of fuel in Australia right now. We've got transports coming out, 2nd Marine Raiders. We've got 1st 102nd Infantry, 3rd Marine Raiders. We'll put these out there on those islands we were just talking about. Coastal Artillery, regular artillery. That's a big transport task force. More supply coming straight from the Panama Canal, which is actually up here. Panama Canal coming out. It comes out on the map over here when you're trying to supply these islands. Is this one coming to Christmas? Yep. And you saw one coming to Palmyra. I supply out of the Panama Canal to those if I can. It's safer than running them down for Pearl Harbor. Now, I just don't keep a lot of cargo ships at Pearl Harbor. I have them come in and drop off a lot, but as far as running missions out of here, I don't really do it. I just do it straight out of the Panama Canal. Those were the transports we talked about, I believe. The tanker. What's this? This is going back to LA. I have everything, almost everything in the game come back to LA. We've got some subs, or a sub, the trigger that's out of here. It's going straight to Pearl Harbor. The usual amount of activity out here for just patrols. And then we've got a huge cargo task force that's coming into Los Angeles to auto disband. And then we'll load them back up and out they go. All right, let's do some setup. Let's do some real setup. I'm going to grab a drink here for a second. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back with you. If you saw a little skip in your screen there, I just stepped away for a second. You really shouldn't notice the difference, but I was away for a little bit. But now we're going to go check out the Eastern U.S. box as we go through, Canada, maple syrup land, up to the Eastern, up to, it seems kind of odd considering Canada a little bit further north. But anyway, Eastern U.S., let's just go see what's going on in this box, and I'm actually going to go about setting up things just sort of as I usually do as I go through here. And we've got no ships in port. We do have a base force here, the Eastern U.S. base force. That's always going to stay here, of course. But we do have a tanker group. And look at this massive tanker group that we have here. That adds up to almost 75,000 tons of fuel that we can load onto this thing. So, of course, we're going to. It's already docked. It's come back in here. We had sent this. Now, I'm not sure if I sent this to Cape Town or if I had sent this down to the Panama Canal. Um, yeah, looking at this Commonwealth, yeah, this came from Cape Town. So I batched all these up, sent them over here to the U.S. East Coast. Why did I do that? Well, we're going to load fuel. So normally you would need to dock it, but it docked as it came in here. The U.S. East Coast, obviously a huge port. It's a level 10 port, as big as it can get. So 60,250 tons, not a problem. If you look at the port capacity, it can take up to 196,000 tons of ship in here. So we're going to load fuel. All right. And then let's just send that going to Cape Town as I use my mini map to great effect. And there we go. So it will go out and come back. But as you can see, we don't have enough endurance here to actually do that. But we don't want it to fully refuel over there. We'll just put it on a minimal refuel. Again, if you're not that familiar with the game yet, you're watching this, and you're like, oh, I'm going to kind of get in the game. I'll just see where he is now. It's 170 hexes to Cape Town. Okay. And so we're green there. That's fine. We can make it there. But it's 340 total to go there and come back, We only have 297 hexes of endurance here. All right, so we're going to have to get a little refuel when we get out there just to be able to make it back. But we'll put that on minimal refuel, exit out of there. There's nothing else to do here. There's nothing else in this base or port. Okay, you can see all of the shipping that we have coming in and out of the eastern coast of the United States. So one of the great advantages of playing the Allies, obviously, is you just have a limitless supply, whether it be the eastern U.S., at Los Angeles, San Francisco, I mean, you name it, anywhere up and down the U.S. West Coast as well, you've got a limitless supply, really, of fuel and supply. Okay, let's see. We've got some empty cargo coming back there. We've got some empty cargo ships coming back here. Now, this is a CS to Cape Town. What do we have this as? Human control. I've got it on no auto disband. I'll actually change that. When they're unlike ships, I like them to disband when they get back to port. Now, we could, put them right back together, but I like them to auto disband. That way, I just know to look around and we'll get the little anchor symbol, meaning there are ships here at anchor, and then we can check out what they are and try to put like ships together. These go the same speed, right? But they've got different capacities and they've got different endurances. So if I can put them together with like ships, that'd be great. I've got more CS Cape Town going on here for supply, I believe. Yeah. So when it comes back into the east coast of the U.S., this continuous supply just means it'll automatically get full up. I was going to say full up. It's going to automatically get full and then go back to Cape Town. It'll just go back and forth forever till the end of the game until we do it, tell it to do something different. Here we've got human control, and again, these are a little bit different, not that different. Look, what you're really looking for is the same speed, because every task force will move at the slowest ship speed. Okay, we've got an AK that's coming in here. Again, all empty. We'll auto disband the task force when it gets there. These guys are alike, so they're coming in empty, and we're just going to keep them together. These ships are all alike. We'll just keep those together. Same here. Same here. Now, I won't look at these every time. I mean, I generally probably don't go out to this box often. I'm just doing it as we go through here so you can see what's kind of, how much shipping you have coming in and out of here. I usually just look at this box, and when they get back here, they'll either sit here as a task force and you'll see the ship, or they'll auto disband if I've set them that way. This ship, when they come in individually, though, I do like to have them auto disband, and again, it just puts them in at anchor. No auto disband, although I guess these are different enough. I probably will. Tankers, these are all the same. That all looks good. So all of this stuff out here is empty, and it's coming back to the U.S. East Coast to get filled up again, and this one will disband. I've already got that set. So when those come back in, they'll break up. We can put them back together. We do have a unit coming down the rail here. This is anti-aircraft. It's the 94th Coastal AA Regiment. Okay, cool. Strategic move to Los Angeles. That's what I always do. I won't set this until we get over to LA and I kind of figure out where we may need more AA. I love to have one of these on every single island in the South Pacific, or, ship these over to Australia. The Aussies certainly need them. All right, then I usually go down to the Panama Canal after that. You can see we got a lot going on here. What's in this box? This is probably stuff coming in from the East Coast. And so we'll see. And sure enough, this is full. Now you're going to say, what is all this red over here? I actually turned this around. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into it, but when the ship has to turn around, this kind of gets really screwy. We've got this set for Cristobal. It will certainly be able to make it to Cristobal. Its home port is eastern U.S. You can see it's 100% full of supply. I did set this to auto disband. Why would I do that? Well, when it comes down to Cristobal, we need ships down here because we're filling up Cristobal. We need ships to go out into the Pacific as well. So every so often, I'll auto disband one of those here, set their home base as Cristobal. We could actually even just set that at Cristobal now, right? That way we don't forget what we're up to. It'll disband. Well, for this task force, it wouldn't really matter if it disbands. It doesn't matter what the task force home port is set at. But anyway, okay, you get the idea. It's going to come in here, dump its supply, and that ship is going to stay at Cristobal as the home base. We've already got this one set up that way, auto disband at Cristobal. This actually has nothing in it. Um, I think it's returning here. I think it went to the U.S. East Coast, but I just don't remember off the top of my head. We've got two submarines in here, the Greenling and the Haddock. As you can see, unfortunately, they carry the Mark 14 torpedo, although they can upgrade on 442, and all your subs you want to upgrade just in case it gives them a different loadout or something, because they're essentially worthless with the Mark 14 torpedo. But that really takes almost into 1943 until all of the bad Mark 14s cycle out. But if you upgrade here, you got a chance anyway that they'll carry a different loadout. Okay, so that's fine. I mean, they're going into here. They'll get to the base in 2 days. We'll send them out to the Pacific, probably send them to Auckland, Sydney, out in that area. So those are the three that are coming in. Then we have some ships here actually at Cristobal, where we have a base force, the Panama Canal base force. And I put this F detachment U.S. Navy Port Services back here just to help with all of the shipping. Now I do have this on strategic move because I was thinking about moving it out here into the Pacific. I mean, ultimately, this base force, you have a lot of support. You have aviation support, which you really don't need, but you have 49 naval support. Here, these guys have 30 naval support. So, you've got a lot of shipping coming in and out of here. It doesn't hurt to have these engineers here. They give naval support. It causes, stuff to get in here and out of here faster. But we may move this onto the Pacific. I'll just put that on combat for now and set its future objective. It's at Pearl Harbor now. I'll just leave it at Pearl Harbor. I'm just not sure if we're going to move that out or not. We have one ship in port. You can see we got 70,000 of fuel, 52,000 of supply. Let's see what the ship's already here doing. The West Camargo is loading supply. Okay, it's already at 62% capacity. We're going to want to send it out here into the Pacific somewhere. Initially, let's have it head towards Haiva-Oa, which is all the way down here at the southeastern part of the map. Now, when I do that, let's actually do it this way. Let's do not unload. So when, again, all of these commands for the most part are what the task force does when it gets to its destination, right? And so when it gets to Hiva Oa, I don't really necessarily know I want it to unload there. I may want it to go somewhere else. And so we'll just have it go to Hiva Oa, sit there with the do not unload. But if we're going to do that, we got to put remain on station. Otherwise, if it gets out there, we've told it do not unload. It sits there for a turn and it says, well, I don't have any further orders. If you have a retirement allowed on, it'll just go straight back to Cristobal. Okay. It's really an ingenious system once you're used to it, I think, anyway, of giving orders, naval orders. We have this ship here, the Hollywood. This one I think will dock. And if we look down here, it's got a 4,800 capacity. We could either put, 4,800 of supply or 2,400 fuel. We're really low on fuel out there, but it almost becomes like you're going to use as much fuel as you actually take out there. From big bases like the Eastern US and Cape Town, that's not a huge deal because they have a limitless supply. From a base like Cristobal, it is a big deal because you're kind of using double what you need to get fuel out there. So I think we will load supply. All right. So now that'll start loading up supply. I don't know where I want to send it yet. I will study that more in depth. And what I'll do oftentimes is get out to these bases and say, gee, we need more supply. Oh, yeah, I had to play that ship back at Cristobal. We'll send that out there. So for now, it's just going to load and it'll sit here. It'll get a full load. And then it'll wait for our directions. Okay, we've got this unloading at Cristobal, the Sea Fox and the Sea Hound. This came out of the eastern U.S. We've got it on do not refuel, which is good because we want that to happen back up at the home base. Looks good. It's unloading out here, so we'll have even more This has got a little bit of both. Some of these cargo ships do that. 350 or 3050, 500, 3050, 500. Okay, cool. Um, Yes, we have a ship in here. It's the Nebesna. Okay, it's got an endurance of 13.6, 12 speed, 48. Now that seems very familiar because it's exactly like the Hollywood. So we're going to take this ship, the Nebesna, and we're going to put it in here, and you can see they're identical ships. And if we said done there, they're going to be loading supplies on both of these. Now you can split them up because you got a bunch of small islands. So actually 4,800 is a lot of supply to a small island. And then you add them together and you've got 9,600. That might be a little overkill. So, don't feel like you got to batch these together just because they're identical ships. You might want them to go to two different places. Now, if we jump over the canal into Balboa, again, we've got our base force. Oh, speaking of which, let's go back here. Did I have? No, I did look at the ground. I just wanted to make sure I looked at the ground units. We skip over here. We've got one ship in port. Nothing else going on here. So let's go check out what that ship is. It's the West Shipper, and this may look familiar because it's exactly like those other cargo ships. So let's form that up into a cargo task force, and let's go get the West Shipper. Done. Now you can't do much over here on this side of the canal, Balboa. Everything from the U.S. East Coast comes into Cristobal, and you pretty much send anything out from there into the Pacific. Now it's got to go through the canal, but it doesn't really flow through to this other side. So we're going to need to take an empty ship like this, put it back over into Balboa. And so let's do that. I want to make its home port Cristobal. All right. We'll make its destination Cristobal. My name is Chris, so Cristobal was my Spanish name. I've got memories of my high school Spanish teacher yelling Cristobal. Let's merge here. Let's meet that other task force because I'm going to put it in with those guys that look just like him. Supply fuel. That's the one that's unloading. That's the task force as we move here. Yep, West Camargo, right. So we're going to have it meet this task force. It's the two AKs that we've now batched together. They are loading supply. And as I hover over that, if we click that, this task force will meet that task force, and then we want it to merge. Okay, so they'll go in together. And that's it. There's nothing else here. We just had the one ship in port. If we get over here and see what these guys are up to, they're probably returning from on the map to the off map base. They're empty. You can see they're different ships though. So I'm going to have them auto disband when they get back to Cristobal. And then the other group here, okay, this is kind of a bigger group. They're also, again, it's all about Cristobal down here in the Panama Canal. We'll have them auto disband when they get there as well, and then we'll batch them back together. I would just give you one warning about doing that. When they auto disband in port and you put the task force back together and create a task force, they will fuel up. All right. That could be a problem if you're at a base that doesn't have much fuel. They fuel up and they take all of the fuel. You may need that fuel for something else. And so just keep that in mind that, when you have ships at anchor, you batch them into a task force, they will fill up. And so just be careful. Yeah, okay, what's coming out onto the map? We've got several things actually. We've got the Admiral Wiley here that's 100 full. It's going to Pago Pago. Of course, a do not refuel here. It'll go out, unload the cargo, come right back to Cristobal. We've got the Steel Ranger. That's going to Tahiti. We've got the Admiral Sen that's going to Suva. As you can see, we're just supplying up a lot, all this stuff. Here is kind of a weird task force. You got all these APDs this turn or a couple of turns ago, 2 or 3 turns ago, we got all of these APDs. What are they? They're transport destroyers. They don't have a lot of troop capacity. They have a little bit. But they have a 6 anti-sub. These are perfect ships to have lead your assaults later on when you're invading islands because good anti-sub. They do carry some troops, and so they're not going to carry all of them. Of course, it just doesn't carry much, but they're very handy for invasions. And so we got all of these APDs. I didn't really know what to do with them, so I took this third 102nd and loaded it on all this stuff. Now it's spread across all of this, and we picked up some supply as well. I've got them going to Hiva Oa. I'm going to put them on do not unload. We don't want them to drop off at Hiva Oa, or maybe we do, but I'm not going to make that decision now. When it gets out there, we'll make that so do not unload and remain on station. So it'll just sit there. That's what we want when it gets out there. Now we've got the AKs, the Thermal Hot, and the Algarab. 6,200, 100 on the capacity. They're full of fuel and they are going to Hiva Oa. Do not refuel when you get there. And then we've got these four with the supply going all the way to Wellington. So we are going to have this refuel a little bit. I'm not so sure if that's a great idea. We get to Wellington at 123. It takes 123 from where we are now. Um, it's a 331 for a round trip, so we've already gone about 40 hexes. With this endurance, they can only go 300 hexes, so we are going to have to refuel somewhere. Maybe we'll do that at Hiva Oa. I'm just going to leave that for now. So anyway, that's moving on. Those are all moving onto the map, and then I like to go down here and kind of go from bottom to top out here in the Pacific and just see what we got going on. We've got some supply that's going to Tahiti. Just make sure to do not refuel. So you can see from the off-map base, these things will come, onto the map all the way down here. You always need to be checking that. There's Hiva Oa that we've mentioned. What do we have here? Oh, this is the tanker group that's headed all the way down and around to Wellington to New Zealand. They're full 57,000 tons. We may take that all the way to Australia. Of course, we've got two escorts with that, two destroyers. Important to do that. We've got this transport that's got coastal AA, I believe, or is that already? Well, let's find out. Yeah, coastal AA. So we've got an anti-aircraft counter here. I call them counters since this is such a board game. But we've got a coastal artillery coastal AA and coastal artillery. I've got those going to Hiva Oa. I've got them on an unload right now. Let's make that do not unload and remain on station. We'll let it come here. This is what I do over and over. Let it come here to Hiva Oa, and then we'll figure out. I'm going to leave Hiva Oa for some other time. Um, Hiva Oa. Okay. And just moving up, we've got this task force. This is carrying bombers, Bomber Group BG. It's going to Melbourne. Okay, and so we've got 11 Marauders. Now, these are naval attack bombers. That's why I'm spending so much fuel to get them all the way to Australia, even though it's only 22 planes. They're they're great on the naval attack. These are your naval attack planes, your Marauders. Um, they do a good job with that if you have good pilots. And so anyway, I'm going to take that all the way to Australia. We've got Deadhead here going back. Well, not completely empty, going all the way back to Los Angeles, and we're going to have that auto disband when it gets there. I probably auto disband more than some people do because I like to look at the ships, get like ships, and batch them all back together. Steel Voyager headed here for Christmas Island with some supply and fuel. Okay, what is this out here? Oh, that's the one we just looked at. That's the one headed that way. That's the one going to Christmas. Right. This is a transport that has 2nd Marine Raiders, 1st 102nd Oh, we looked at these guys when we did the big look over the map. Right now, they're going to a certain hex because I haven't decided where I want to send them exactly. So they're going to come here and sit right behind Hiva Oa. We want to make sure they remain on station and do not unload for now, although you got to make sure you turn that back because going into the war zones we're going into, those islands, where Lodric's carriers are very active. If you get to one of those islands and you've got it, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to put it on unload because we're not actually going into a port here. So if we just sit here, it doesn't matter. It's not going to try to unload into the ocean, obviously. But what I was saying before is let's just say we were going to stop at Haiva Oa for some gas, right? Um, we get there, we do that. If we've got it on unload cargo, it'll start unloading this stuff because that's the destination. It'll start unloading it. So you may have to put it on do not unload. Then, after you get your gas and get out here, switch it back to unload for its next destination. Just something to think about. Up here we go. We've got tankers on the way to Auckland. This is another 56,000. So we had 75,000 down there headed for Wellington. We've got another 56,000 up here. That's a lot. Oh, we should go back to this. I started talking about the task force aspects of it, but Second Marine, Third Marine, we've got coastal artillery, First 102nd Infantry. So we've got a lot on those transports. And we just keep coming up here. We looked at all that. This is just empty cargo that's, well, it's not all the way empty, but it got most of it got emptied out. Coming back into LA, I'm going to have that auto disband so we can batch those back together. You can see this is the submarine, its patrol zone. We've got, what is this? A PG, no, a PC, I'm sorry, patrol craft that's out here. That's its patrol zone. Some yard patrols that, you want to keep them in tighter, some sub activity here. This is just to make sure he's not going to run anything up on our coast. Some of these subs you can definitely move out into the Pacific further if you want, but they're really short range subs for the most part, so I put them up here. If we go into San Diego, I think I'll save that for the next episode. I don't want this one to get too long, but next time we'll go from San Diego to Alaska, then back down. Then I like to go down Alaska and then down Midway to Pearl and, out to Johnston and down this way. And I kind of just take sections of the map from bottom to top and then top to bottom and just move all the way through the map that way. So anyway, we'll do that next time, and I'll try to do this more and more where I give you the big grand overview, and then we talk about certain areas because, for one thing, it's just practice. Hey, how do you set these up? What are you thinking about when you set them up? And also just to give you more context when we go through the combat resolutions of what's moving where and why, in my mind, it should go there, whether that's right or wrong. It's a whole different question. Anyway, thanks for joining me, Strategy Gaming Dojo. Talk to you next time.